So on Saturday, me and 4 friends woke up at 2:30 AM to travel 5 hours up north to play in a regional. Why? Because we are insane. It was a lot of fun, and I finished top 4 with Mathmech Adventure, and this is my deck profile. I promised another TCG video, so with no further ado, enjoy! Also, thanks to Connor for letting me borrow his camera, because although this quality isn't perfect, unlike last time, it looks a bit less like it's being recorded on a potato. So yeah, we'll go straight into the main deck, where we of course have the triple circular, and I play 3 Paolo Exceed still. I'm always surprised at how few people play this card. I think it's insane in a lot of decks, but especially in Mathmech, rank 4 that you get 2 searches for circular. So like opening any monster plus this, you go summon, link 1, summon parallel, and then you go into Alan Bershan, grab circular, and then from there you can do some different plays to get into a live trap card, or even if they just hand trap you, at that point you still get to make a heat soul. So I think this card is insane, and I always feel really good when I draw this card, and I would never play less than 3 of this card, I think. And then we have 3 Small World, and 3 Signet Mining. So essentially these 12 cards are pretty much our starter cards more or less, and what we tend to want to open to at least get into either circular, or in the case of parallel, into Alan Bershan, then Alan Bershan into circular. We have 2 Diameter. Because of the restriction of Rites of Aramis, you cannot use the normal summon effect of Diameter the same turn that you activate Rite. So because of that we only play 2 Diameter. 3 only ever comes up when you like open 2 of them and you have Small World, but otherwise I am very happy that I play only 2, because a lot of the bad hands in this deck can also be caused by drawing multiple Diameter, since opening up like addition Diameter is fine, but opening up like Diameter is never fine, because you have to normal summon Diameter, which can be a bit tricky sometimes. And then we have 2 Sigma. You don't need 3 because you dump it off of circular. And then I max out on the extenders this time with 3 Subtraction and 3 Addition. So I feel like that with the adventure build of this deck, you want a lot more of these extenders, because you cannot do the on-summon effects of Diameter the turn that you activate Rite. And because of that, you kind of want Addition and Subtraction to be able to push through boards a bit easier. Especially because you also cannot activate transcode effects the same turn that you activate Rite. I do not play Multiplication and Final Sigma because the extra deck is too tight, and then we have 1 Equation and 1 Factorial. I don't play more than 2 Mathmech Spells and Traps because I think that you'd really want to avoid drawing the Mathmech Spells and Traps. If I was playing Desires, I would probably try and play like another Factorial or something, but otherwise I really don't like playing more than 2. If I were to play Induction, it would be in placement of Equation, but I think that Induction really isn't very good. As an interruption, it really doesn't do anything. Like, popping 1 card is really bad, given, you know, how a lot of decks can easily push through a single pop. And in terms of outing Mystic Mine, this deck already has an out to Mystic Mine with Draco back, and I also main deck Cosmic Cyclone as another out to Mystic Mine, because Induction also does not out Mystic Mine if they are playing Runic, because they can chain and summon with level 2, and then that can still protect the Mystic Mine. And then for the adventure cards, I play a bit of a weird ratio of 2 Enchantress and 1 Rite. So like, I found that I prefer playing a smaller package of the adventure engine in the main deck, because normally the way that I get to Enchantress is with Small World, if I already have Circular or Signet Mining, because then it's like you go search Enchantress and then you have Mining, you discard the Enchantress, or you use Enchantress first and then do circular things, and you don't really want to be drawing too much of this engine either. I found that was also another weakness of this deck, was when you open too much of the adventure engine, so I chose to play a minimal number. And you only need the 1 Rite because Enchantress can add back the Rite from grave to hand, which is pretty good. Then we have the one Faithful, the one Dracoback, and the Griffin. And then for the hand traps, we play 3 Draw, 3 Veiler, and 3 Imperm. So Draw is a card that I think either hits really hard or does almost nothing. I think that is really nice in Mathmech regardless though, because you still have stuff like Small World and Silent Mining to do something with the Draw even when it's not that good in a certain matchup. And then I have 1 singular Ash and 1 singular Ghost Mourner. So I play these because Ash is a way that you can bridge addition or subtraction into Enchantress, and I play Mourner because I think that is better than playing 2 Ash, since sometimes you want another level 3 for certain bridges. The attribute can sometimes be relevant too because it's wind, and the card in general I think is better than Ash right now, because against pure tier, Ash does nothing, but against pure tier, Mourner can hit Keklos, and that's always pretty good. And then for the last card in the deck, we have a Called By. I'm playing 44 cards, which I'm not too sure about, but the main idea with 44 was I found that playing the Mathmech adventure deck in 40, you kind of draw stuff like Faithful and Dracoback a bit too much, so I put it to 44 to see if that would be any better, and it was pretty nice. I find that with 44 you brick quite a bit less. You can definitely make this 40, but it's quite hard to make it 40 without cutting Paolo Exceed, and I really like Exceed, so I'm kept it at 44. But if I were to play a pure Mathmech deck, I would almost always play 40 cards. And then on to the extra deck, we have the 2 Allen version and 1 Laplacian. I only play 1 Factorial, so there isn't really a reason to play more than 1 of this. Although more than 1 of this does come up sometimes, but the extra deck is a bit too tight to play anymore. And then for the Link ones, we have Almirage and Lingeribo. So Almirage comes up when you have a hand trap plus Paolo Exceed, and then Lingeribo comes up to turn a subtraction or addition or a circular or anything that's a Mathmech into Lingeribo, and then into Paolo Exceed. And then I play another Link one, which is a Link Spider. So this card is very good because if you get hit by Nibiru, you want to summon Link Spider and then use either Exceed or Addition or Subtraction and then go into Splash Mage into Heat Soul. So this card I think is very important for letting you play through Nibiru, because Nibiru is very popular right now. Normally if people aren't maining Nibiru, they're probably siding it, so Link Spider comes up a lot. And Link Spider has extra value in this build, because you can turn the Adventure token into Link Spider, and then use that to make something like Splash Mage. So I played 2 Splash Mage in this build because when you activate right, your turn 1 combo normally consists of doing Splash Mage into Heat Soul, which means that you want to have another one left in the extra deck to make Transcode on the following turn. Then we have the Heat Soul, and I have Wicked and IP, and then with IP I make Avramax, and then for the big damage cards we have Jammer, Transcode, and Access Code. I don't play Disciple Devotee in this build, but there definitely is potential to do well with those cards in this deck. For example, you can add Dracoback to your hand off of Faithful, and then use Disciple to put back Dracoback, or also you can use, or for example, if you brick on like Griffin or Faithful, that's another free card to just put back with the Disciple. I haven't tried Disciple Devotee yet, because I'm not sure how many people are going to be on Super Poly or Droplet for Utrecht, so for the time being I'm going without Disciple Devotee and going more towards a Heat Soul focused build instead. I think also there is a higher chance of surviving with Heat Soul Pass in this build, because sometimes with Heat Soul Pass in Pure you can get OTK'd quite easily, but it's a lot harder for them to OTK you over Heat Soul Pass in this deck, because you have to OTK over Heat Soul plus Token plus Griffin which isn't too easy to do. And then onto the side deck. The side deck is probably the part of the deck that I am the least confident with, because I felt very happy with the main deck and extra deck, but the side deck I think is very scuffed, as you will see, because okay, we play 1 Nibiru, 1 Firecracker. We search this off of Alan Bershan for a certain point in the duel, and then we have Nibiru because I didn't side more than 1 for some reason, and then for the runic matchup and for slower matchups, I side deck into a larger adventure engine. So I side deck into the 3rd Enchantress, and also into a Legal Knight, which comes up also against the elements, because this card I think is better to end on than Griffin against the elements. And then we have a 2nd Draco back, because this is pretty good to have against Runic, as another way of outing Mythic Mine. And then we have a 2nd Right, and we also have a Foolish Burial in the side deck. It's kind of hard to explain this one. Essentially, I wanted to side deck another Right, but Connor only had 2 Right I could borrow, so I couldn't side deck a 2nd Right. But I think that this card, I think, would have been good to main deck anyway. I think what I should have done is I should have cut a Mathmech edition and had this in the main deck, because this can either become Right by dumping Enchantress, or it can be a really bad extender by sending Sigma and then making a rank 4 that way. So yeah, this card was good, and I think it should have been in the main deck over the 3rd edition. But in general, this part of the side deck was very, very not correct. I think this card was fine, it never came up. And then we have Nibiru, which I think probably should have been more than 1 somehow. This should have been main decked. I kind of liked having a large adventure engine to side into the slower decks. And then we also have Feather Duster, and a 3rd Cosmic for the back row decks, and then 3 evenly matched for stuff like Fluunderies, kind of, and for T-Elements. And for going first, we have 3 copies of Different Dimension Grounds. This card I think is very, very nice, because if you do this against T-Elements, they can't really do anything. My only concern with this card though is that it doesn't really do much against Sprite, but against every build of the element, this card is very, very good. So I think that the side deck was okay, but going forward I would try and make it look a little bit less silly, like having this in my main deck, more Nibiru's in my side deck, and maybe rethink the adventure ratios. But otherwise, I think that I did really like the idea of playing a small adventure build, a small adventure engine in the main deck, and then siding into a larger adventure engine into the slower decks. I got shifted 3 times in the event, and I won 2 of those times, because ending on Griffin plus a hand trap is still pretty good, because as long as you can survive, then on your next turn you will no longer be under shifter, to be able to do things with circular and stuff to go for OTK. And shout out to all my friends that I came up with. We had a lot of fun. It was very tiring, but I enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, thank you all, have a perfectly balanced rest of your day, and see you all next time. Adios.